Welcome back to Garden Talk, brought to you by the Penn State Erie County Extension Master Gardeners. I'm your co-host for today, Mike Bailey, along with Ellen DePlacido. Good morning, Ellen.
Good morning, Mike.
Yes. Hey, last time around we talked about some standard gardening approaches where somebody would, plow or till or even dig up an area in garden directly in the soil, which is a wonderful approach. And we talked also about maybe mounding up some of that soil within that plot to improve your drainage and to allow you to plant intensively, et cetera, and stuff like that. But this time we want to talk about two different things. We want to talk about raised beds, and we want to talk about container gardenings. Now, when you talk about raised beds, it's really nothing more than creating some kind of geometric shape that would allow you to fill that shape up with soil and get it up at 6, 8, 10 inches above the surrounding soil level. And to do that, you can use any kind of material you want. A lot of us use wood because it's convenient, and we put a standard, rectangular shape. But you can use any kind of containers that you might have, around your property. Some people use cement blocks. Some people use, plastic. Some people use metal. Some people use tires. Some people use stones and all kinds of other things. So don't let your imagination, or lack of imagination, prevent you from accomplishing this or forcing you to add a lot of cost by purchasing boards. What I would tell you that probably would not use pressure-treated lumber. The old method of treating lumber to preserve it had some arsenic in it, and you don't want that. It doesn't anymore, but it contains some other chemicals. And I haven't seen a lot of good literature yet that kind of brings me some kind of feeling of safety from that. Maybe you're going to find that it is safe and there's not a problem, and that's wonderful. I will continue to look for that and research it. But when as a result of whatever your approach is, like I said, you'll get that soil structure up above the surrounding soil. Now, when you do this, I personally like to get the soil up about 10 inches. I think you have a better, end product if you can raise that soil up about that far above the surrounding surfaces. Certainly don't make a raised bed and put 4 inches of soil. That's not much of a raised bed. You need to do that. So some of the pros and cons of this whole thing. It allows for intensive gardening, and we mentioned a little bit of that last time. And I read a little bit on one of the seed packets. Some carrots. It talked about 15 inches rows apart and space the carrots 3 inches apart. And I got a packet of beets in my hand. I'll rattle it out just to prove you I got it here. Okay? It says 18 inches, rows 18 inches apart and beets 4 inches apart. Well,
they're going to be like pumpkins.
Yeah, that doesn't have to be. And I shocked Ellen when we first started doing this, okay? I took my beet seeds and my carrot seeds and I scattered them like grass seed. He says, no, you can't do that. I go, yeah, you can.
No.
Yeah, you can do that, okay? So it will work. Okay, now we've probably, modified that radical approach, and now we make our rows real close together, maybe 2 inches, 1.5 inches apart, 2 inches apart, and put the seeds, only about an inch apart. And you can grow intensively like that, and it increases productivity. You can get a lot of garden production out of a raised bed that's only 4 foot by 8 foot. So consider this particular approach. It's easier to control your pests. Things are elevated, kind of gets it up off the ground, off the surrounding ground a little bit, okay, and kind of helps you and brings things closer to you so you can watch for and control pests. It also helps to, control weeds. You plant intensively with the plants that close apart, that close together, really. You know what happens? It shades the weed seeds, and the weed seeds don't germinate, which is wonderful. We do very little weeding in our garden, don't we, Ellen?
Right. That saves us a lot of time.
Yeah, down in Emmaus, okay, things are bunched up, and we don't see a lot of weeds. The weeds that do pop up, jump right out at you, and you can grab them and just pull them out. It's also easy to water them a little bit, because again, the shade of the plants will keep that water from evaporating from the soil surface. Um, what? There's some cons to the whole approach, isn't there, Ellen?
Yeah, a couple. Well, yeah. I mean, when you initially start, it might cost you a little bit more to get started because if you're going to buy the lumber and then of course the soil that you're going to fill the boxes with and maybe even some compost. But it's worth it. It's not like you have to do that every year. You may have to top off a little bit, but that's the primary con, I think, to raised beds is just the initial cost if you're just getting started.
Yeah, I mean, we had planned here on talking about container gardening also, but we're not
Hmm.
going to get that. So we're just going to kind of continue to talk about some of these raised bed
Okay.
issues because
Okay.
I think it's a wonderful approach, especially for the home gardener, especially for an
Right.
individual who's starting out. You know,
Hmm.
create some kind of a raised structure, fill it with good soil, put some compost in it, okay,
Hmm.
and mix up that top 5 or 6 inches and plant intensively. You know,
Hmm.
uh, now you can't do that with tomatoes. Tomatoes need to
Hmm.
be and peppers need to be spaced a little bit because they need to get some ventilation in between the plants so they don't develop molds. But
Right.
what you can do with them is you can put a lot of grass clippings and straw and chop leaves underneath. Okay, and that holds down the weeds. That holds in the moisture, and helps with disease control because you don't get a lot of splashing from the soil up onto the leaf surface.
Right.
Uh, you know, I, I've switched my entire garden over to raised beds. You know, um,
Hmm.
for a couple of reasons. I have a problem with drainage. We've kind of built into a side of the hill, and anytime we get a heavy rain, I get a lot of water come down. So the raised
Right.
beds, help there, but they
Hmm.
also help with the overall productivity of the garden. So Ellen,
Hmm.
I think we've used up our time today. I jabbered on forever,
Okay.
didn't I? Okay.
Okay.
So
Yes, you did.
yes, yes, you can agree. Okay. So thank you for
I'm
listening,
allowed.
and we'll follow up with container gardening next time. Thank you. Bye bye.